everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Portal Podcast. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. Thank you all for joining us, and special thank you goes out to all of you who continue to support the podcast and continue to spread the word. Always remember, if any of you out there have experiences of your own that you'd like to share, feel free to email me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. Again, paranormalportalradio@gmail.com, and you too could be a guest on the show. Got a phenomenal show lined up for you guys today. We are joined from Ron, who lives on the shores of Lake Erie, and he's going to share his incredible journey dealing with the paranormal. So I hope you all are ready, because it's about to get spooky. All right, Ron, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming on.
Hi, Brent. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
It's absolutely
I've been kind of on edge to do this. So,
no, it's great fun, and you know, I mean, you and I have talked a few times now, and I just like to have these discussions because obviously this is an incredible passion of mine because, you know, I do the shows and stuff, but I learned something from every person, and you and I have talked, and I've learned from you as well. So I'm really thrilled that you're here to share your experiences with our listeners. So I guess probably, you know, again, it's kind of my canned opener, but where did this start for you, brother?
Well, I'll be honest. My journey through the paranormal started at a very young age. My grandmother, who I will always call her my grandmother, but she's actually my great grandmother, helped raise me because I came from a home that was poor, and a lot of people don't know about the 70s. When you were poor in the 70s, you were poor.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so our family all kind of lived together in one big farmhouse, and she basically was the significant mother figure in my life.
Oh, fantastic.
And what's interesting is that her mother was a Mohawk Indian shaman. Oh. Her father was basically, he was a pagan Celtic. I don't know if it was Druid or just that he was from France. Oh. And he practiced his religion until he died. So he used to tell all kinds of stories to his daughter and his son. My grandmother was his daughter. And well, she conveyed a lot of those stories to me when I was very young. And she talked about the fairies, the fae folk. She talked about the Native Americans and their legends and the spirit animals. And so it was a really interesting mix of being exposed to strange and unusual things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I can remember hearing strange noises and stuff, and her explaining them to me as, well, that's the fox. He's playing tricks on us tonight. Stuff like that. And I don't know how else to, you know, I mean, that's just the things that as a young child stuck out to me.
What a great
grandfather.
Sorry, go ahead.
My grandfather was German, Bavarian specifically, and he used to tell me about the wee folk. He used to call them brownies. Basically, they're a trickster type creature to him, you know, in his stories. So I grew up on that. By the time I was 10 years old, I'd been exposed to all that culture, and it just fascinated me. And it made it so that I was never really afraid of the dark or that sort of thing. Because, a lot of kids are afraid of the dark. I wasn't afraid of the dark. I was afraid of what was hiding it.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I think that's neat, though, because I think that those wisdoms in many cases are dying out. So it's really cool that there are those people like you who were exposed to those and they were part of your formative years, because I think having that spiritual awareness is important, and it's something that we've really lost in our Western societies.
Oh, definitely. One of the things that fascinates me is that a lot of people who talk about, the Native American traditions, they don't actually spend the time with those people to learn them. My grandmother was like, if someone asks, you don't tell them how it works because they wouldn't believe you anyway.
Mm.
That was literally, that's how she believed about it.
Sure.
She taught me, I saw as a young child, I had seen spirits and ghosts, and there are a difference between the two. Mm-hmm. The way we were speaking before, I explained to you that, when I learned this from my grandmother, she said that ghosts were, an apparition of a memory, and there was you couldn't interact with it, but you could see it, observe it. Sometimes it would be a smell, an image, a sound. It could even be a rocking chair that rocks with no explanation. That was the majority of what I saw. When we got out, we would walk. Sometimes we'd go to the park and we'd walk around and see strange things. And, she had an ability to walk up to animals.
Oh, neat. Wow.
They had a farm, and I grew up on a farm, and it's not just because the animals are used to people, because if a stranger came by, you don't want to mess with a cow. I mean, if you're a stranger, you don't want to mess with a cow. Mm-hmm. The whole cow tipping thing, people die every year tipping cows because the cows kick them.
I don't know why anybody would try that, but yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
To this day, every year, there's at least one cow tipping death, okay? I mean, and it's because they don't realize how dangerous a cow is.
Or how hard that kick would be. Oh, my God. Oof.
I can only imagine. I mean, you're looking at hundreds of pounds of animal.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now, this relationship that I had with my grandmother lasted until she passed away, and she passed away when I was 16.
Oh, okay.
And it was a devastating thing for me as a young man. It really, it's what turned me, that event turned me farther into researching ghosts. Is what made me become a ghost hunter. Because I wanted to talk to her again, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was a young man. That was my goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask you, you said that
Sure.
you had seen spirits and things growing up, and other entities. Yeah. Did she also had the gift of sight, and was.
I believe she did, yes.
Okay.
But she never directly said, yes, I can see them.
Okay.
But she would say, don't let it bother you, which because I believe she was seeing it because of the way she reacted to my reaction, if that makes any sense.
Sure it does. Yeah, absolutely.
And she used to say, I can read people, was how she said it. Mm-hmm. Okay. And, growing up, I had several friends who would go on to actually betray me and my friendship with them. Mm-hmm. And they were people she warned me about.
Wow.
She told me they would betray me.
Yeah.
And yeah. And one of them did it. But did it after her? She'd already been gone 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Or he betrayed me, and I didn't see it coming.
Yeah, I've been through a few betrayals myself, and the funny thing is people close to me who have, I believe a great sensitivity. They warn me as well, and it's funny how it's easy not to listen to that, but then after it happens, it's like, oh, if I just listened to that, that advice.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. It's always. That's why they say hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah, she was a very wise woman, and whether I can't tell you if it was because she had supernatural abilities, which I believe she did.
Sure.
Just there were so many little things when you look back at them, you go, well, how did she know that? How did she know that? I mean, you can't just look at someone for 30 seconds and say he's going to betray you. Don't be friends with him. Literally, that's how fast it was when she met him for the very first time. 30 seconds later, he's going to betray you.
That's amazing.
I mean, that's, how do you explain that?
Sure.
And it just, I learned a lot from my grandmother, my grandfather, and my uncle, who was also a Native American. And he taught me a lot about the woods and how to get around in the woods, how to move around, how to do things, how to hunt. He was a big man, almost 7 foot tall.
Oh,
he was huge.
Wow.
And my aunt, which was my great aunt actually, was the one that was married to him. And she and him, we used to go out to the reservation and he would hunt. She would hunt with a bow. He'd hunt with a Bowie knife.
No kidding.
And wow. He used to track the deer. He taught me I could run through the forest and be totally silent because they taught me how to run. Until you don't move the same way you do. A lot of people who are used to the woods don't know what I'm talking about.
Right. Now, was he also able to see and react to spirits as well?
I never really talked to him about it, and I probably should have.
Yeah.
He's gone now, so I couldn't sound like I can go back and talk to him.
Sure. So,
it's just incredible the things that he taught me was like this. He would pray to the animal spirits before the hunt began. That when he had the takedown, he'd pray over the spirit, thanking it for giving up its life for him and for us.
That's fantastic.
And things like that. Those are, and I kind of think it's a respectful thing, I mean.
Sure. Yeah.
It just seems right to do that,
Yep. Now, you had mentioned also, I would just like to check or talk about, rather, I don't mean check. I'm going to have to make a note to have that edited. But you had mentioned that you'd seen spirits and stuff. What kind of things did you see in these formative years? What kind of apparitions and such?
There was a spirit that would appear in my grandmother's home. She believed it was her grandfather on her mother's side, who had visited the home many times. And he was a Mohawk Indian, of course. And she felt like he was there all the time when she would say, "He's here again. How do you know?" "I can hear the walking upstairs." She would point that out to me. She says, "You can hear the sound of the rocking chair. Go upstairs." And I went up the stairs, I opened the door to the attic, which was a bedroom that was up in the attic. Mm-hmm. And there was someone, I couldn't say it was a person, but there was a shape in the rocking chair, rocking the chair.
How about that? Wow.
And that was the last time I went in the attic when I heard noises after that. I had to have been about 5 years old.
Oh, wow.
And it left me confounded. And it was amazing, but it was scary at the same time.
Yeah.
It terrifying.
Yeah, but I guess if you're going to be visited by an apparition, a loving family member is a pretty good one.
I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had seen animals that weren't there.
Oh.
That my grandmother would then say, "Well, that was Badger, or that was Fox, or that was the rabbit," because that was part of what she believed, that these spirits would visit her.
Oh, okay.
And so that was the majority as a young child that I remember of the things that I saw that were, I mean, like, I'd look, the rabbit would be out of the corner of my eye, the rabbit would be there, and I'd turn, the rabbit's not there. Wow. Stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's very powerful.
But it was never a frightening experience either.
Okay. Now, she was addressing these as they were spirit animals, as in, like, I know that, or I believe, I guess I should say, I'm not extraordinarily versed in First Nations religion or spirituality, but these were representative beings or entities represented as animals and animal entities that would come in a protective way or
I think it was in a protective way. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that's really interesting.
Because she was, she would say there's a lot of the prayers and do a lot of the rituals that her mother had taught her.
Oh, right.
And we would pray for the crops to grow. We'd pray over sick animals to help, ask the other spirits to come and help this poor sick cow or this pig that was not growing fast enough, and that's part of their income was to sell off the animals for slaughter. And I mean, some people I know that's a touchy thing.
Yeah,
but these were part of her life.
Sure,
that's what she was. That's what she did.
Yeah, I think we live in a supermarket culture where it's real easy to go bag some beef and just bring it home. But this back in the day, people raised their own, and just, it'll in large part, unless you're in a major city. But yeah, this was common. Now it seems very foreign to us, but it's very common. Yeah,
it is. And what it's amazing. I've actually had people argue with me. Why would you have to raise your own animals and kill animals? Because you can go to the store and get them.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, they had to be raised and slaughtered somewhere.
Right. Yeah. They didn't just magically appear at the store.
The guy's like, no, they don't. You can go to the store and get chicken.
Well,
I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that those are the kind of conversations you can't hold for long.
Yeah. No, you cannot.
It requires a little bit of reason and insight. But all right. So what's next? Where do we go next, sir?
I will tell you about my one UFO. Well, I had 2 UFO sightings, but the one that was when I was very young.
Okay.
I was about 7 years old, and I was on the school playground, and my friends and I saw a large, I would describe it today as a Tic Tac UFO, but at the time it reminded me of the Goodyear blimp. And the reason I know it's not the Goodyear blimp is because the Goodyear blimp cannot move at the same speed as an F-15 Eagle. It just doesn't. It doesn't move at jet fighter speeds.
Wow.
And this particular cylindrical UFO was being escorted by 2 jet fighters.
Really?
Really.
Wow. So it was about the size of a blimp, though. I mean, that's
it was about twice the size of the jet fighter.
Okay.
It was the jet fighters that were escorting it.
Okay. Wow.
I can't tell you what specific jet fighter it was. I just know that it was a jet fighter. Okay. I don't remember the specific model of fighters. They'll quote me as an F-15 Eagle. I have no idea what. It was a jet fighter. It was 2 jet fighters escorting it. Okay. And the news reported it as a fuel tanker refueling exercise.
Okay.
But yeah, you get the absurdity of that.
Sure.
And it just, it was moving way too fast. It didn't have wings. It didn't look anything like an airplane, and it was being escorted by 2 fighter jets.
So about what year would this have been? In the 70s again, or?
Well, I was born in 1968, and it was just before school started when I was 7 years old.
Oh, okay. Wow.
It's just there were a lot of people that saw it that day, and they actually enough people that reported it that they actually put out a cover story, and it's definitely a cover story because what they said was that it was a refueling jet, and that they were doing refueling exercises over this small town I lived in at the time.
Wow.
And my question is if they were doing refueling, then why wasn't it that the 2 planes were behind it trying to be close to it? They weren't. They were flying one on each side of it.
That's amazing because I guess I didn't even know that they had airborne refueling capabilities back in the 70s. That's very curious. I mean, I don't pretend to be really well versed in military history, but I thought that was more of an advent of the 80s, but still.
The Niagara Falls Air Base was the first air base to have refueling aircraft stationed at it.
Okay. Now, the other part of that is that I don't think as an exercise normally, especially if they're doing training and testing, they probably don't do it over populated areas.
No, they would do it over the lake or they do it over the hillside.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, that's intense.
It is intense, really, when you think about it. It's just, I look back on it and go, that's definitely what it was. Definitely not what they claimed it was.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And now, if I want to stay on the subject of UFOs, I did have another experience about 10 years ago.
Oh, please tell us.
And I was at my parents' home where they live now, where they retired to.
Mm-hmm.
and that's in Chautauqua County.
Okay.
I was outside on the phone talking with my girlfriend.
Gotcha.
When I heard the distinctive sound of Afterburners kick on. I mean, if you unless you've been around it, you don't know. But I used to go to the Niagara Falls Air Show all the time. So when they give these demonstrations where you hear the afterburner turn on, you can hear it. It's distinctive. And it made me look up. And when I looked up, there were 4 jets flying one next to the other, like wings, like a wing left formation, I believe is what it's called. Okay. And they were flying with their afterburners on, directly from one side of the sky to the other. And I was like, wow, that was strange. And of course, my girlfriend goes, what do you mean? What was strange? And I told her. And no sooner than I finished telling her, 4 jets now come from the other side with their afterburners on.
Oh. Going
in the opposite direction. I'm like, all right, now I'm curious. And then they cross the same, and I have to assume they're the same 4 jets. They turn and cross over the flight pattern they just flew, with the afterburners kicking in about halfway. Oh. So, so now I'm in what are these planes doing? I'm losing my mind thinking about it, right?
Okay.
And I'm watching, and I see a small light, circle light, that moves at a diagonal across the pattern they flew. And it looks as if it looks as if it drops straight down over the lake near where my parents live. And about 3 minutes later, 4 Chinook helicopters race over the top of us in the direction the light went.
Wow.
And it's just, I'm like, okay, what's happening? This is nuts.
Right.
No explanation. These fighter jets flew overhead 4 times before they flew off, and they flew off after the light dropped down off the horizon. And, what is the military doing something, in that area, something like that? I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere. Why, why would they do something like that on the edge of the lake?
Sure. So your take from this is that they were pursuing this light?
I think they were trying to identify and pursue whatever that light was.
Okay. As an intercept.
Because
okay.
You don't burn afterburners in a search pattern.
Right.
Unless you're trying to change the search pattern fast enough to keep up with something that's going faster.
Wow, that's intense. I think there's a lot of that going on, to be honest with you. I mean, it kind of speaks to the same experience from the Navy off the coast of California in 2014 or whatever, the Tic Tac craft and such. It sounds like this is a regular occurrence.
Yes, it does sound that way. I just don't know. I don't know what the light was because it was not close enough for me to see.
Okay. Yeah.
What it was. Just that it was a light moving in a direction that lights don't normally move.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
And it was not a satellite because satellites don't suddenly drop out of the high altitude and disappear behind the hills.
Right. Yeah. They try not to anyway.
Right.
No, that's peculiar. I think go ahead.
I don't know. I just don't know. And I think what disturbed me most was when the Chinook helicopters flew overhead, because that's troop deployment. That's not just, they were going somewhere specific.
Oh, okay.
And there had to be, my job would have been, if I was still in, would have been to be in that helicopter, because I was in rapid deployment force.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And, my job was to deploy by helicopter, and you don't send Chinooks only do 2 things. They either carry heavy supplies or they carry troops.
Well, do you think they thought maybe it was on the ground? And I mean, it's all speculation, right?
It's all speculation, but
right.
There's no normal reason for Chinook helicopters to be racing out over the lake with spotlights and racing down the lake.
Right. Wow.
Unless they are, 1, carrying cargo, at 9 o'clock at night, I doubt it.
Sure.
Or 2, deploying troops of some kind.
Okay. Wow.
And we had an entire, when I was in, an entire platoon was deployed, 28 men in Chinook.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That was how we deployed our forces were deployed by Chinook.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fantastic. And I think that's all of this stuff is becoming part of our modern vocabulary, which is good because the ages of the absolute cover-ups, at least, seem to be in the past. And I'm sure there's certainly more going on than we'll ever know, just due to the fact that I don't think the government is ever very forthcoming with information, but that is curious.
The ramifications of releasing information about something like this, whether it be Sasquatch, Chupacabra, UFOs, you name it, okay? If they are real, and I believe those 3 things are real, okay? Those 3, U.S., to admit it would admit that they've been lying to us since the 50s.
Sure.
Okay. 2, it would cause, especially with Bigfoot, would cause a huge, huge problem, if they admitted it existed, because people would want to go find it. They would have to create safe zones. I actually believe that the national park system was created to create preserves for these cryptids.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's a personal belief. I can't prove it.
Right.
Yeah. It makes sense when you look at the clusters of sightings. Where are they?
Right. Yeah.
They're in the national parks.
Yeah. I think it's very possible, and it's kind of a double-pronged possibility, because people are in national parks and there have to be people to have sightings. But does that mean that there's an unusual concentration of these things in those parks, or is it just that there's more people visiting that are likely to see them than in other wild areas? And it's, you could be absolutely right. It's
hard to explain. I mean, there are parts of these national parks you're not allowed to go to.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Which a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Huh. Very interesting.
There's, I don't know if you know the rules for photographing and filming in the parks.
No.
But you have to get written permission from the government to be able to do that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They don't count recreational photography.
Sure.
But if, like, my brother is a professional, was at the time a professional photographer, and they let him get away with a warning.
Oh.
But he was there filming, he had like 5 different cameras, was just doing recreational, in his mind, recreational photography. Okay. Because that's how he used to take his relaxation time.
Okay.
Was to go out someplace and do photography. But because he's using his professional equipment, and because he's, he is a professional, at the time, a professional photographer, he got in trouble filming in the national park. You aren't going to be selling, you aren't going to be selling these photographs, are you? Was the inference. And he's like, no, I just do this for fun. He's like, well, you know what? Your fun's over today. You want to take in more, you're going to need to get a permit.
Right. Wow.
And I thought that was amazing. And I know that he's not the only one that's experienced that.
Okay.
I know that David Paulides has been in a situation where he experienced that.
Oh, okay.
Where he tried to do photography in the parks, and was told he couldn't.
That's incredible. Because of course they advocate tourism. That's basically how those things are funded, I think, in some degree. But then to say you're welcome to be here, but don't take pictures.
Well, it's because I think the part of that is because they want to get paid for it, because these people are doing it professionally to make money.
Oh, yeah.
People want to get paid for it.
Yeah. But that wouldn't necessarily be a hindrance to just the average tourist that's popping through and,
right,
taking photos of Old Faithful or whatever. Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha. Yeah, I had not heard of that before, but I don't doubt it. I mean, there's volumes of things that I just have never heard. So we'll just add that to the bucket of that pool. But So what else have you experienced, sir?
I spoke of an experience with an angel and a demon on your call-in show on YouTube.
Would you mind going over that again? Because I thought that
Sure.
was fascinating.
Sure. When I was 17, I was part of the Lutheran Youth Ministry.
Okay.
Basically, they want to try and get young people to go on to become pastors. And I worked at a local retreat for the summer. And while I was there, I had made several friends, and one of those friends was a pastor's son.
Okay.
Now, unbeknownst to myself and his father, he was actually a Satanist.
Oh.
He did all kinds of crazy things, he said. And I called him out on it. I was like, yeah, right. He says, no, let's go for a walk. So we go for a walk down to this auditorium on one of our breaks, and he's like, I can summon ghosts. I'm like, yeah, right. Oh, no, I can summon ghosts.
Jeez.
And he proceeds to start chanting, and a spirit appears on the stage.
Oh, no.
A dark shadowy figure. I can't really say, was it a spirit, a demon? I don't know.
Right.
All I know is that I pushed him and said, stop it. That's not right.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll do whatever I want. And he pushes me and tries to throw a punch at me, and that upsets me. So I'm, being the crazy young kid I was, tried to go after him, and he ran off. And he ran down to the waterfront where we had a huge bonfire. And he literally jumps up onto the bonfire in the flames, in the middle of the bonfire, standing on the top of the bonfire. And he strikes a pose with one leg brought up to his knee. I don't know how else to explain it. And starts talking in tongues. That's the only way I can explain it. Whatever he was saying, it wasn't English. And it wasn't any language I've ever heard, because I'm a well-traveled person. I was even when I was younger.
Okay.
And then he started channeling some spirit of some kind. His voice was very different now. It didn't sound like him. It was like a growling voice. And he started mocking Jesus and mocking God and all these other things, and mocking the people, because there was about 5 or 6 of us around the fire. Oh, no. And because they'd had an event earlier the day, and then they left the fire to burn out, someone has to watch it till it burns out. So that was what was happening. The counselors were on our break, and that's what happened. So he's up there, and I couldn't handle it anymore. I reached up and knocked him off the fire.
Okay.
And he then pulled a pistol out of nowhere.
Ugh.
Don't even know I knew where he had it. He points it at me and shoots at me. And the bullet doesn't hit me, but it goes through my jacket, front back, in and out my jacket.
Oh, my God. Wow.
And, of course, I responded by grabbing his arm and yanking him down, and I'm just holding him down, doing my best to wrestle him to the ground. I think I grabbed him by his shirt and lifted him.
Okay.
And as I did that, one of the other counselors was able to wrestle the gun from him. At that moment, we began praying, and he balled up and was muttering, and just in a fetal position on the ground, just clammed up.
Wow.
One of the senior workers, he was now a youth, but he was one of the people who worked there, immediately ran to get the pastors, because he knew something was seriously wrong. The 4 of them came. We carried him up to the church, where they placed him on the altar. And then everyone who wasn't a priest was thrown out of the room. And we all went outside. And there was flashing lights, noises, sounds, things that I can't even possibly try to mimic, that came from within this room. And I regret not going back in to see what was happening. But at the same time, I guess I just was afraid of what I might see if I went in there.
Absolutely.
But it lasted, it felt like it lasted forever, but it might have only lasted 20, 30 minutes before it calmed down.
Okay.
And then one of the pastors came out and said, we think he's going to be all right. And he then took us back to the main area of the camp. And we, what do you do with, young men and women? You feed them to calm them down. And so we broke out ice cream and shared ice cream for everybody and, tried to brush it all off. But I'd have to say that was probably the most frightening thing I'd ever seen.
Well, that's terrifying, yeah.
Yeah, but I had faith that what was happening, that he couldn't hurt me. And in that moment, I felt invincible, which is why I grabbed him out of the fire and pushed him to the side. And why I honestly think that at that moment, God stepped in and made it so that the bullet missed me, because there's no way. Come on, we're 3 feet away. How did it miss me at 3 feet?
Wow. Well, thank God. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I don't know. And like you say, thank God. I do. I do every day.
Absolutely.
It was truly mind-shattering realization that this stuff's real.
Yeah.
It was a true confirmation for me that when everything up until that point was, well, maybe it was just my mind playing tricks on me. Maybe it was my grandmother, my young mind influenced by my grandmother, whatever. Mm-hmm. No, at that moment, I knew the devil was real.
Yeah. Wow, that's a terrifying story. I'm glad it worked out okay. I'm glad nobody was seriously hurt, but that's frightening.
It is frightening. It is frightening. And, I don't know, maybe it's me being dumb. I've never been afraid of dying. I've never had that in a situation. Even in that situation, I just trusted in God and said, no, you're going to stop. And I went after him.
Good for you. I mean, because God only knows what could have happened if there
could have gotten worse.
Oh, yeah. If you hadn't intervened and stopped him from hurting either himself or several other people. I mean, my God.
Other people, yes.
That's a nightmare scenario. So, well.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's funny because, well, not funny, but it's just
funny, odd.
Right. Because we oftentimes, in our Western sensibilities, we dismiss stuff like that, just like, oh, that's just Hollywood. That's just, but I think what has to be, pointed out is that all of those things are based on a truth, that this isn't just the fabrication of creative writers. These are things people have claimed to experience through time, and demonic possession is no joke. I think in the paranormal, the term demon gets way overused and misused, and it's just
demons are fallen angels. So they're a creature, they're an entity that's never had life. So they don't understand life. They don't experience life like we do. And so
yeah,
I don't know how to explain it. I just know that there's spirits that have lived and the people have passed on and become spirits. And then there are these demons and angels.
Yeah.
If you're Christian, you believe they're demons and angels. If you're someone else, you just believe they're unearthly spirits. Like the Middle East, they believe they call them jinn.
Yeah, the jinn.
I forget the name in the Far East that they call them. But they're there. Every culture has them.
Yeah.
There has to be something to it.
Sure.
And from what I've seen, they're real. They exist.
Yeah, I suppose.
And they can affect the world.
Yeah, and they can affect people and do.
Oh yeah.
The claims are so incredibly profound of what people have displayed under the influence of these dark forces. But there are dark forces, and that's the thing. I think it would be nice to look at all of this paranormal stuff and say, oh, it's just, just nice, friendly spirits, just blah, blah, blah. But I think there's a whole really twisted, dark underbelly to it, and that stuff.
Yeah, there's an old saying that the greatest trick the devil ever performed was to convince the world he didn't exist.
Yeah, isn't that something? Well, I'm glad that you were able to get out of that situation and actually to intervene in that situation and protect and help people. That's incredible.
Yeah, my faith in God is very strong. I believe that God is there. I believe the Bible when it says we will never understand him.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't. That's what he says. He said we can't understand him.
Sure.
And so I just accept that and believe that he exists, and I have the faith that he's there. I've seen too many things in my life to not believe in him, that there's something there. And I say him, but we can't explain what God is. God is there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. Now, was that kind of I mean, you're still having experiences, even in the present day, correct?
Yes, I am. Yeah. I still have had, a dark entity, and I know it's a dark entity. It's tried to push myself and my son down the stairs in the front of the house. Oh, no. We're at the house I live at now. Mm-hmm. I cleansed the house.
Okay.
And it hasn't returned in any force.
Okay.
But I have seen the shadow. I have seen the shadow of it. It just hasn't been able to affect me or my son because we believe he can't hurt us anymore.
Good. Yeah, that's actually very powerful. Yeah. I think you're doing it right.
It's, I don't know how else to explain it. And when I went, my new girlfriend, I say new girlfriend, boyfriend, girlfriend for 4 years now. Her home is haunted by a spirit.
Okay.
And the spirit manifests. She's seen it. I've seen it. Guests have seen it.
Okay.
It appears to be a male spirit. It walks the house at night. I actually have difficulty sleeping at our house because it manifests and wakes me up.
Oh, okay.
It's the television comes on for no apparent reason. There was an alarm clock that kept turning at random. The alarm kept going off.
Wow. Yeah.
At one point, we unplugged it.
Did it?
Got plugged back in and turned on its own.
So it obviously needs to be acknowledged, huh?
So whatever the spirit is, it needs to be acknowledged. Yes.
Now, does it feel like a dark thing, or is it just a presence?
It's a presence. It's not. I can't. I don't feel malevolence from it, but at the same time, it's mischievous. It's troublesome.
Sure.
I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
And it really can be unnerving sometimes to see these things. I don't go out a lot at night anymore because where I live used to be a cemetery.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they cleared 8 city blocks of cemetery and built all these houses on the cemetery, including mine.
Wow. Okay.
Which is why I believe my house is haunted.
Sure. Yeah. And you hear those stories of, they moved the headstones, but they left the bodies, you got to wonder, is that what happened?
Houses have basements, so I highly doubt they left the bodies.
Thank goodness.
But I just so that you understand, I mean, when you're disturbing someone's final resting place,
Sure. Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you move the bodies or not.
Yeah. No, you're right. There's probably an attachment to the site as well as the remains. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah. Let's see. Oh, yes. The angel experience.
Yeah.
I was 17. This was 1 year after the demon experience.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it wasn't 1 year exactly because I was in school at the time. It was just before my birthday. It was in the first week in November.
Okay.
And I was walking home from school, and the town I lived in, the school is 2 miles from the center of the town, and a mile of it is a hill. The old story about walking downhill, and then uphill?
Yeah.
I did. I lived on the far side of the valley, because the village is in a valley. And I'd have to walk from the high school, which is at the top of one hill, all the way to my house, which is at the top of another hill. 1.9 miles. That was my walk to and from school.
Oof.
Now, that was never really a problem, okay? Mm-hmm. I knew one of the bus drivers for the school, and he'd pick me up when she saw me walking, so it didn't matter. And but this day was a nice day, so I'm walking home, and I reach a point on the hill just off the apex of the hill, and there's a side street that enters onto the road. It's Center Road, and I don't remember the name of the side street.
Okay.
Okay. I hear screeching tires, and I hear the words, duck, now. And I ducked I just instantly reacted and ducked. As I'm ducking, I hear the impact behind me. The two cars came together, bam, and hit. One car rolled over the top of me without touching me.
Oh, thank God. Wow.
It didn't stop till it reached the bottom of the hill, almost a mile down the road. That's how far down it went. It's a big hill.
Yeah.
And it just rolled all the way in the bottom, hit a bridge abutment and stopped. The other car split in half.
Really?
One half spun across the road and into the ditch in front of me, and the other half spun behind me into the ditch.
Oh, that's amazing.
It is insane. It's crazy. There are two witnesses in a car that stopped. A woman standing in her mailbox who saw what happened. I yelled from the scene where the cars hit to the woman with the mailbox and said, run it inside and call the police.
Yeah.
Well, what happened to the guy that was on the road? I said, I'm the guy that was on the road. Go call the police. And she's going, I don't believe you, as she's running towards her house. Now, people don't realize this is before cell phones, guys. I'm old enough to
yeah.
Cell phones didn't exist at that time.
Yeah.
So I proceed to check on the people in the car next to me. Mm-hmm. The two witnesses that saw the accident drove down the hill to check on the other car. There were 6 girls in the car and 7 boys in the other car. The one that split had 6 girls in it. The 3 girls in the back seat were still in their seatbelt in the back seat in the ditch. And the 3 girls that were in the front were still strapped to their seats in the front of the car in the ditch.
Oh.
No one had a serious injury in that car, not one person.
Wow. And
I was in the Boy Scouts, so I had both of my first aid skill badge and my merit badge, so I was, I knew whether or not it was going to be a serious injury or not. Right. The poor girl, the driver, broke her nose when she hit the steering wheel.
That's
the car that stopped at the bottom of the hill. The man that was driving the car and his wife, one was a retired doctor, the other was a retired nurse. They got out and immediately provided first aid to the boys in the car. Only the driver had any injuries, and he had a broken nose from hitting the steering wheel.
Wow. What are the odds of that?
14 people were at ground zero, counting me.
Mm-hmm.
The only injuries were 2 broken noses.
That's just amazing.
And all 3 witnesses who were not me insisted that I got run over by the car that broke in half.
Yeah, that's a divine intervention there.
It has to be. I don't know I don't know how to explain it other than it had to be the voice of an angel that told me to duck.
Yeah.
I can't explain it any other way.
And
why would I know to duck?
Right. And even the fact that the car sheared in half and both sides went on either side of you, but neither of them collided with you. And then you ducked down and missed the car rolling over you. And it's really an incredible moment of divine intervention. Wow.
It has. I believe that it was divine intervention, most assuredly, because there's no reason for I should not. I heard the voice to duck while the tires were squealing before the impact.
Right. Oh.
I heard duck now, and I did. And as I did, the impact took place and everything went flying around me.
And not only you, but it's just everybody else was just pretty much fine as well.
Nobody suffered any serious injuries.
Yeah. I mean,
the front of the car landed nose down so that the passengers were basically outside. They never actually went into the ditch. And when the rear landed, the trunk hit. Boom. And here these 3 girls are standing there stuck in the back seat, still, seat belted in. I mean, what are the chances? If you remember when I first told you the story, you're like, well, how many people were, no, there was no deaths. They were all still in the car. No one got ejected.
Right.
And literally everyone was still in their seats.
That's amazing.
It is insane. It's amazingly insane. I've told the story a couple times, and everybody says, "Oh no, that can't be true." And I'm like, I had to testify at the accident, at the accident trial.
Yeah, I'm sure you know what you saw and experienced. There's no question, and the fact that you're still here is testament to the fact that some divine force interceded and made that okay.
Because the eyewitnesses insisted that I had gotten hit by the car.
Wow.
And I didn't get touched.
Well, I tell you what, Ron, we're all glad that you didn't, and that you're okay, and that you came on the show to share all of this with us, brother. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh no, I have, I really, I've realized I have a need to tell people because I haven't been telling people.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I don't know. I just get this. I feel like I have this compulsion that I have to start telling people these stories because I think people have seen the light in our world start to die, and I want people to realize there's more to it than what we see every day.
Yeah,
the show brings that to people, and I want to share that with you and your listeners because of that.
Well, thank you, brother. I'm absolutely honored that you're here, and your stories have been incredible and great reminders that there is good and there is light. And you're right, it feels pretty dark right now in a lot of ways, but I think that our stories can help keep people focused in the right direction because God knows there's plenty of things pulling us towards negative ends, and so we need reminders. So thank you so much for coming on the show, brother. It's just incredible.
Yeah. Once I got into college, I started doing more formal ghost hunting.
Mm-hmm.
We at the college I went to, we had access to reel-to-reel recorders.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know what a reel-to-reel recorder is, but
oh yeah, I know. Yeah,
it's bulky, can be carried around. We used that to do our recordings for EVPs.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it was some of the we had a group, there were 12 of us
mm-hmm.
that were hunting down local urban legends to try and prove whether they were real or not.
Uh-huh.
The one day we went and we found our way into the sewer system under the city and where I lived.
Okay.
And there had been stories of the young boy had been lost and never found. Oh. And there were reports of his ghost being seen
mm-hmm.
near the sewer entrances around the villages. So we're like, all right, well, let's go see if we can find his body. We never did find his body. And we searched every part of that underground that we could get into.
Okay.
We, at one time, I don't know if there was a photograph of it taken because the person who was with me, I don't know if they took the photograph or not. But we had seen the ghostly image of a child in the sewer.
Wow.
While we were in the sewer. I guess it was probably the second most frightening experience in that time of hunting ghosts.
Yeah.
Because it was, we just proved this urban legend existed.
Right.
And it was kind of, in a way, it was kind of frightening. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah. That is, and then it's tragic. Those kind of things are really tragic too. And I don't know if I buy all of the child spirit stuff. I think that people see child spirits. I just don't know that they're always child spirits.
No, I highly doubt it.
But
the devil approaches in the form of innocence.
Yeah, that's a great line. Yeah, absolutely.
And I know that from all of my spiritual research that I've done. When I was in college doing this ghost hunting, I studied Buddhism, I studied Confucianism, I studied the Quran, I studied Kabbalah, I studied the Bible. Mm-hmm. I did a lot of research on spirituality, possibility of life after death, what are the different beliefs around the world.
Sure.
And it just, I get the feeling that we're all praying to the same God, if that means anything.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do too. I think that I've always looked at it like religions are these pathways to a great garden, and they're just, each path is unique and different because it meets the needs of certain people. But I believe all the paths lead to maybe the same garden.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a time when we were out exploring the woods near the college, because there had been some sightings on the running tracks of runners being chased by somebody, and then that person not being found.
Oh, the runner disappearing?
The runners would be experiencing, because the long distance track runners would run on paths that were in the woods. They had put up a bunch of woods for them to practice. Each loop had a set number of meters and miles and all that stuff. And while we were there, we started getting reports of someone stalking people on the trails. Oh. So they were telling people not to run the trails at night. We decided to go on an investigation.
Okay.
And we went out on the investigation. We were, basically we just started running. One of us I had the reel-to-reel in my backpack, and I wasn't recording with it at the time. I just had it in my backpack, and my roommate at the time was carrying a camera, and he had one of those little, Super 8 cameras. I don't know if you remember those. They were like a cartridge you shoved into the camera and you could record.
Yep.
And not like today's cameras. And we get out there and we are on the running path, and we see this shape off to the side of the track. Being the fact that we're there to try to find out what's going on, we wanted to know whether it was a real person or not. We assumed it was a real person.
Right.
This is when we found out we were wrong. A deer ran straight at us. A doe.
Okay.
Ran between us and kept going. Behind it was a black shape with red eyes that kept running straight at us.
Oh.
And we decided that maybe we might want to run. And we turned and started running back the way we came.
Yeah. Oof.
And we reach the part of the track that's not in the woods. We come out of the woods onto a walkway that's lit. And all we can hear is barking and growling and barking. And at the edge of the light is a dog that's got to be the size of a cow with red eyes barking at us. Rabidly barking at us like it wants to get to us, but it can't seem to approach the light. My roommate's got a mag light. He flicks it on and points it at it, and literally it just disappears.
Oh, yikes.
So now we're standing there, and then we're just dumbfounded. Our mouths are hanging open, and we're like, "Did you see that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I saw that." And three of our friends who were in the woods with us come running down the walkway out of their light circle to ours, real quick. And they're like, "So you noticed it can't come into the light either?" Wow. And the five of us are all standing there going like, "Well, what do we do?"
Right.
And my roommate's like, "We're calling security." He walks over. There were phones on the pathway where you could pick up the phone and call security. It was a secure phone.
Okay.
You know, they had them all over the campus. And I knew the security guard that showed up. And when he showed up, he's like, "All right, what's going on?" And we tell him we think the problem is not a prowler. We tell him we think it's an evil spirit. And he's like, "Yeah, right." Well, while he's talking to us, another group of students call security, and he gets a call on the radio that says, "We have reports of two dogs in the center of the quad." All right. And he goes running that way where we're like, "We're coming with you because we ain't staying out here." I mean, he's an armed security guard, you know?
Yeah.
So we follow him into the quad. There's about 20 people all standing looking up. So we look up, and there's dogs on a second-story roof, two big dogs with red eyes.
Oh.
One of them jumps to a 4-story roof, jumps again to an 8-story roof, and disappears on the roof.
Yikes.
At this time, 2 more security guards arrived. They saw the dogs jumping from roof to roof.
Oh, my God.
As they were coming.
Yes.
And now they don't know what the group of us who were already there, they don't know those dogs had red eyes. They are like, well, they're going up on the roof to see what happened because they saw them go up to the top floor. They go up the elevator. They enter the shaft because it's an emergency entrance that you have to go through the elevator shaft to get up to the roof.
Mm-hmm.
They go up to the roof, and he's up on the roof, and he's waving down to us. There's nothing up here. They took a report from 27 bystanders about 2 strange dogs with red eyes that jumped up to the top of the buildings and then disappeared.
Amazing. Wow. Yeah, that
was the single most profound thing that I ever saw while I was ghostbusting.
Well, that's amazing, brother. And I can't thank you enough for sharing all of this on the show, but we're out of time for now. But yeah, I mean, it's been an incredible journey, Ron. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah. Like I said when I called in and when we spoke before, is that I have seen things. I could talk for hours about the little things that I have seen. The things that I've spoken about tonight are the most amazing things that I've ever seen. I mean, there's really not much more that I can say that would blow your mind because the rest of them are the little things like disembodied voices,
sure,
shapes of creatures in like an elephant in the fog, things like that that we've seen that make no sense. And like I said, I could talk about it for hours.
Well, I'm just thrilled that you did this, and I know our listeners are going to enjoy it as well. So thank you so much, brother.
Yeah, no problem. And like I said, if you want me to come back on and talk about some of the other stuff, some of the things that the people that I worked with experienced that I didn't see personally, yeah, I can tell you some of that too.
Okay, brother. I'll be in touch with you, but it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah. I just want to tell everybody, just stay strong because there's as much good as there is bad out there.
Get out! All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us here on tonight's show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please feel free to follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Paranormal Portal Radio, as well as finding us on Twitter. We're on Twitter at Paranormal Portal, Portl, and we'd love to have you stop by our YouTube page and subscribe and check out our shows there. We got hundreds of shows, Journeys into the Paranormal Portal, so I hope you'll check it out, guys. We're over there at youtube.com/Paranormal Portal, so hope to see you guys soon. We'll be back, of course, for more podcasts in the coming days. So we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can.